How's it, gamers? It's your boy Wotan. Normally I don't do these sort of pre-recording announcements. You can look back, there's only a handful of them. But this episode I thought was worth taking a second to talk to you about some stuff. I've been meaning to speak to Mr. Duncan for some time now, and he's an absolutely brilliant oak. And Ernst and I had a blast of a time chatting to him. It's too bad that we didn't have more time on our hands, but we're definitely going to arrange to make sure that we do have more time next time. The main issue that I wanted to discuss with you lot was, well, honestly, the editing, which, of course, there isn't much of. There never really has been on our show, hence the name, but on this episode particularly, there's a little pop and crackle here and there, and honestly, the fans on my machine were running a little high. But aside from that, it's just us just sort of coming at you raw. And normally I'd sort of, aside from immense background noise, I filtered that out. But in this case, beyond that, I haven't done much. And I did that really intentionally. There's some cuts and bits here where it gets a little distorted every now and then. But for the most part, it just comes at you raw. And the reason I did that was honestly just to preserve some of the wholesomeness. And there's some really wholesome points. You'll know when you hear them. Ernst even points them out. So, yeah, I listened to these parts. I thought, well, I couldn't really bring myself to cut them. It takes away from the authenticity of the episode. And so this one has a little pop and crackle every now and then, but honestly, it's so authentic and so wholesome, I couldn't bring myself to cut it. So that's all I wanted to say. And as always, remember that we love hearing back from you guys. Follow us on Twitter at NoScriptShow. And also, remember to support our generous sponsor. As you know, we don't rely on you for Patreon donations or anything like that. We foot this ourselves, partially because we're actually good enough at our careers to, make this a hobby. No shade meant. But in all honesty, we really love hearing back from you. And the only thing we ask is give it a like and a share. And also tell your friends about us. And also, please patronize if you have the chance to. Our generous sponsor, JB's Pub. The premier private pub in Johannesburg. JB's Pub is a pub you want to go when you just want to have a good time. And honestly, there's nothing more fun than not being able to have fun in a safe environment. JB's Pub, the premier private pub in Johannesburg. Thank you, JB's. You're always so generous. Welcome to the No Script Show, where if you're out of prison, you're probably a lot less corrupt than most of the politicians in South Africa. How are you doing today, gentlemen?
I'm doing well, thank you, Odin.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really well, thank you, man, and thank you for the invite.
It's a pleasure. So, Rory, we've been following each other a bit on Twitter for some time now. Maybe give us some perspective on some of our guests, especially for the couple of American guests we have, listeners that we have, a bit about yourself, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, my name's Rory Duncan. I'm a middle-aged white guy, born and raised in Zimbabwe, worked all my life north of the Limpopo, specialist Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, spent a decade in East Africa and Central Africa. And I've worked for a number of state agencies over 3 or 4 countries, predominantly Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Zambia, and a little bit in Malawi as well, in international intelligence and in investigations, both working for and investigating governments.
Oh, that's actually probably one of the most impressive resumes we've had on the show in ages. But yeah, we're glad to have you on. As I said, we follow each other a while on Twitter, and I've always wanted to have a discussion with you. So welcome to the show.
Thanks.
I guess the first topic we're going to dive into is, sort of the concept of working in Africa and sort of, as you mentioned, the comfort of corruption and things like that. It's morning for me, so it might take me a bit of a while. It's so hot here in Florida. I'm sitting here in a muscle top of all things, but yeah, good.
Well, now that you say that, it's actually quite cold here in Pretoria. There's a cold front coming through that's forcing a lot of us Afrikaners to wear 2 pairs of short shorts.
And it snowed. It snowed in my little town this morning.
Jesus, I leave the country for like a couple of months and everything's upside down.
Yeah, and you miss the global cooling.
Yeah, Jesus. But yeah, let's get into it. Rory, tell us a bit about what you wanted to discuss with this whole comfortable corruption thing.
Yeah, I just thought that looking at what the background is with regards to what Ernst does with the way that we dialogue on Twitter and kind of the passion that we have for best outcomes in our country. I thought I'd just introduce you to levels of corruption that you may not be familiar with, and I thought that might be an exciting talking point,
Fantastic.
Yeah, let's dive in.
So for example, natural resources. We'll start with gold. Is something that Southern Africa is blessed with, particularly South Africa and Zimbabwe. Strangely, Zimbabwe becomes more and more incredible with regards to discovering pockets of wealth, from diamonds to platinum to new gold deposits. And it really is just an absolute a resource, a bountiful resource of minerals. And so gold is mined in Zimbabwe by predominantly artisanal miners. This is your very poor, rural African guy, village people. And they're out there in the fields, panning, digging, and producing one by one little minute amounts of gold in various forms, powder forms, and small ingots, little nuggets, depending on how they dig it. They dig in holes down on crystal quartz seams. They pan rivers and so on and so forth. And with the endless oppression of the Zimbabwean people and the various forms of thuggery that the government has imposed on them, with a national unemployment rate of 95%, of course, people will do whatever they can to make a crust. And so gold is a huge go-to for Zimbabwe.
Jeepers, 95%? I was like, wow, okay. Sorry, yeah, continue.
There's literally no work in that country apart from informal work. So what happens is that gold gets collectivized by various layers of middlemen, if you like. You've got your buyer right at the field and he's passing it on and so on and so forth. It goes up the chain to eventually, of course, the most powerful and influential people in the country, the people that have the money. And that is, by estimate now, we're looking at around maybe 35 to 50 tons per annum. Now, if you want to go onto the London Metal Exchange website and look at what gold is trading at now, it's probably something like $1,900 an ounce, which I think is 30 odd grams. And that'll give you what the US dollar value is of a kilo. And, extrapolate that out to 35,000 kilograms per annum. Now, it's billions of dollars. And what's unique about the Zimbabwean gold phenomenon, and its relationship with South Africa is that the South African taxpayer is forking out billions of rands per year directly into the hands of the illicit gold traders in Southern Africa.
That is wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll continue then with the method if I should.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, as if I didn't hate paying taxes before, but yes, continue.
Sorry, say that again, man.
As I said, as if I didn't hate paying taxes before. It's just, yeah, it's just okay. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, you're gonna love it. This will rub it in properly. Yeah. So what happens is that these gold cartels, and remember, it's not just gold, but it's cigarettes, it's diamonds, it's rhino horn and drugs. It's all one and the same. That entire sort of network deal within one or two or all of those commodities. So what happens? It's collectivized at village level, and it's then pushed up through to the large traders, and they physically smuggle it to South Africa, mostly by land, through the land borders. Botswana through to here, South Africa through to here, through into Mozambique and down to Johannesburg. And from there, it is brought into South African gold system. And the way that they very cleverly do this is they either have a company that is reclaiming gold from gold mines, gold dumps. You remember when Joburg was leveled and all those gold mine dumps were reprocessed and have disappeared. Those guys, all of your pawn shops, massive networks of pawn shops across the country, they take that gold directly in and they amalgamate it with the gold that they've bought legitimately from people pawning it over the counter. They then smelt that gold into ingots and then submit it for payment into the government treasury department that handles gold. And because the pawn shops have a rebate when they submit gold, because all of their gold comes from so-called jewelry that they've purchased. Now, that jewelry has had VAT paid on it when it was bought as a jewel. And so when it's submitted at the gold reserve in South Africa, 15% on top of the world price of gold is paid out directly to the smuggling networks.
Now, Rory, before you continue,
yes.
Do you have any knowledge of other countries where similar operations or similar operations on a similar scale are happening in regards to minerals?
In terms of illicit?
Yes. Is this comparable to any other country?
Absolutely no. South Africa and the relationship with the illegal gold smuggling networks of Zimbabwe and smaller but Congo, as well as some in Mozambique, but it all comes and filters through to South Africa. It's a totally unique circumstance where there's this 15% value-added tax rebate that all of the illicit gold is. They manage to get that VAT rebate paid back into their hands. So when you buy illicit gold in the field, you will look at the London Metal Exchange trade value on the day and say, all right, it's trading at, let's say, for example, $1,800 per ounce. You then break that down into grams because we're a metric system, and then you know what you're buying it per gram. And you will offer the man in the field, let's say, what we call LME -5. So he's giving you the LME price -5%. So whatever you can get it under the LME price or the London Metal Exchange price. Excuse me. Sorry for the interruption. My wife's putting a pie in the microwave.
No, that's a wholesome detail. Odin, don't edit that out.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna edit that out. That's awesome. Don't worry, we can cut out background noise in post, but I think that's charming. We're gonna stick with
wholesome.
That's really wholesome. We appreciate that.
Sorry, darling, it's cold pies. Yeah, man. So just go figure then. I mean, you guys are I guarantee you smarter than me, particularly you, Wotan, man, with your endless. In fact, I can't even describe to my mind or understand what it is that you're actually studying or learning to do. I just know that it's a monstrous thing.
He's busy programming our future robot overlords.
Well, that's great. Excellent. Starter.
Bye, Duncan. I'm programming safeties in as well. That's actually one of the focus areas of my research is safeties. And I mean, for example, I guess I can give a high level example, but just I guess we'll digress for a second. But Rory, honestly, just for me, like a double digit 15% like on top of that is wow.
Incomprehensible.
Yeah, I mean, if you on a standard calculator, do 50,000 kilograms by 50,000 US dollars by 15%, and put that in rands, and it is a big pile of money, and that is just one of the things that within the gold network that South African gaping hole. It's clearly known by everybody, and I've been involved in and investigating this for the best part of a decade. But what happens is you just get to a point where you get to the top and you just can't go any further.
Now, this might be a little early to ask, but I have a burning question in regards to what is there actually to be done.
Oof.
Yeah, well, I mean, so let me answer your question with a little story. We got a contract out of Zambia to move gold to Switzerland. And as a matter of an exercise, I was working for the office of the president, Zambia, under Levi Mwanawasa's day. There was a wonderful old guy called Regis Piri, who was the director general there. And he tasked me to not to infiltrate, but to take an opportunity I was offered to try and move gold overseas through the country of Zambia, transiting at Heathrow and depositing at what's that big town we used to go to at Geneva. So we would then I was tasked to do so, and I did so. And what I did was I registered a gold claim in northern Zambia, set up the mine and all the mining license for gold mining. We managed to smuggle, and this is going to make your hair stand up, 2 tons over 18 months on British Airways, transiting through London. And we would take 2 tons. We took 2,000 kilograms of illicit Zimbabwean gold, delivered it in Geneva, and I did that for 18 months every single week. I left on British Airways from Lusaka International Airport at 6 a.m., flew into London, flew through London, transited through London, flew into Geneva, dropped it off, went and had a shawarma, bought a bottle of scotch, and was back on 6 a.m. Thursday morning every single week. And we did that to the point that we'd moved 2,000 kilograms of it.
God, wow. I do like that you bought a bottle of scotch. As you know, I'm notorious for my love of fine Scottish whiskey. But
oh yes, man. I had a beautiful collection at the time because it was a 18 times 4.
Of course. Yeah. So and bourbon here takes some getting used to. So yeah, Aaron, you said what's there to be done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to be done. It seems there's nothing to be done. It's just like the rest of the corruption, Ernst. How do you bloody stop it? Whatever that figure is that South African taxpayers are paying back into the gold smuggling rackets is more than enough money to sort out perhaps education or health, But how to stop it, man, I've got no solutions. I know exactly how it works. I've investigated to the nth, as well as the tobacco industry. I was on BBC Panorama. They came and interviewed me in Bloemfontein. They flew from London 2 weeks ago, wanting to talk about cigarettes and British American tobacco's involvement in it. But then then it gets worse, because now you've got your let's say these guys, the big networks, do 100 kgs a week, and I can't give you the figure offhand. I'm really crappy at maths, but do 100 by 50,000 by, and that is paid in rands cash.
Wow.
So
That's
what do you do with that,
money.
And
That's...
so now, it's huge money. Can you do a figure for us, man?
What you said? It's 100 times 50,000
on average. Let's say loosely the cost of a kilogram.
Loosely the cost. So you're turning over a few mil.
That's dollars.
In dollars.
Put that into rands. Yes.
Oh, wait, good Lord, that's approaching like half
that's
a
dollars.
billion.
So times that by 14.5.
That's over half a billion. That is
big money.
frightening.
That's go to space money.
That is good.
Yeah, really. Money. Yeah. And those guys walk amongst us, and making that money. Now, what do you do with that cash, So maybe then you buy diesel, and you ship up hundreds of tons of fuel into the country, which you then sell for US dollars, which you then convert to gold. But hold on, what about the big Nigerian cocaine network that has all of that cash to launder? So now it gets interesting, because now you want to dispose of all this wealth. So how do you do it? How do you legitimize that money? Well, there's a little thing called the Havala system. I don't know if you guys know it.
Nope. Please enlighten us.
Well, it's a particular. So it's a Muslim network that works around the globe, and it's a promissory network. It's a trust-based network where I will come to you with $50,000, and I can fly to Dubai, and I can pull out a pure, clean gold bullion in Dubai. And so now you start to kind of realize how easy it is when we you rack your brain as to, well, how is terrorism funded? How do they move money and arms around the world like this? How does it happen? And these are some of the mechanisms. Now, be that as it may, my interest is well, it's waning. I'm getting older now, and I just don't feel like dying. But it's just our country. I've seen Zimbabwe crumble. We lost everything. Hundreds of years of hard work and dreams and memories and family scattered to all corners of the world, and now we see what's happening in our beloved South Africa, and the strain on us taxpayers, and this is just one little corner that, if closed, would make a big difference.
Yeah. Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to say, a couple of things here. First of all, how do you stop it? I suppose in your case, I think I would go so far as to say simply the value of the expertise you could provide to other people and the knowledge and experience are enough, even if that's not a solution in and of itself. That's, for me, the one thing. And what you mentioned about being closed, I mean, I know they catch a lot of flack for this, but I don't blame Botswana for having as tight a border policy as they do, because I think border policies genuinely and customs and control would genuinely bleed over into a lot of secondary problems. And I don't blame countries like Botswana for having as harsh immigration and sort of border policies as they do. I don't know what you've got to take on that, Ernst, as well, because I know you catch flack on Twitter as well in terms of communities and border policy and all that sort of thing.
How deep do you want to go into the philosophy of it?
Oh, we got it. Got time.
No, man, in regards to borders, I think the main thing is humans have always had boundaries. Boundaries are very important. You can't live in a boundaryless world. There's a boundary between male and female. There's a boundary between good and evil. There's a boundary between my property and your property. There's a boundary between my country and your country, my community, your community. And all these boundaries have different attributes and aspects and characteristics to them. But we can't just mesh everything together. And the problem with porous borders is not only is your country then at the mercy of all the ebbs and flows of population movements across the world, but also you get the problem of the movement, the facilitated movement of crime, drugs, and illicit or illegally acquired minerals and objects and weapons.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a whole nation becomes an unruly, ill-disciplined child, right?
Absolutely. And it's just, it's hard to. My thing is, a lot of people seem to think that the opposite position, the straight up open borders position, is the compassionate position. And I think it is not compassion we can't save the rest of the world if we just let everyone into the life raft and let it drown. It's just, that's not compassion.
Fix your own country first before you try to save the world. Don't play on hard mode if you lose on easy.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and particularly in the African context, Botswana. Well, firstly, I follow Ian Khama on Twitter, Facebook.
Now that you mention Ian Khama and Botswana, now you've got Odin's attention.
Yeah. No, he's just the coolest guy.
Yeah, he truly.
But anyway, sorry for interrupting you, Rory. What were you about to say?
No, just really agreeing with you guys. Botswana's got it right, and Rwanda's got it right now, and kind of Namibia's got it right, but Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa are just big, happy-go-lucky cesspools, and something's got to break, and it's breaking. I mean, look what we've seen over the last week in this place. It's been mayhem beyond our wildest imaginations. I knew it would happen, but I didn't pick it, I must say.
And speaking of the mayhem, this goes ahead, Rory and Ernst, you two specifically. Ernst, again, we hop onto the communities thing, but when it really came down to it, what was it that actually saved people's, livelihoods or their homes? It was communities, banding together and just, and
people who valued something. There were values. They had an area, they had a zone, they had a neighborhood, they had family to protect, and then there was the madding hordes, and it's just not been dealt with at all correctly.
Yeah, and it's much more effective to band together your street and to defend your street with everyone that has a legal firearm, rather than every man for himself sitting alone in his house with his shotgun behind his front door.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I keep saying it's the last. I said to, I mean, obviously, I make no scruples about my sort of general sort of political leanings on Twitter and stuff, and I make no bones about it. I generally lean to a more sort of more conservative / libertarian sort of bent, and I've said to my friends, I don't know if any of you've experienced this, but I've said, the last 6 years of everything that's going on everywhere in the world has been the biggest wake up call to so many more of my more sort of libertine liberal leaning friends. Like, it has been a big wake up call.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is something that you quickly understand when you grow up in Africa, is that the only way to be free is by being secure. Security enables freedom. Boundaries enable freedom in that regard. If you don't defend your home, if you don't defend your property, you're not going to be able to be free in your own home. And that expands outwards, that concept. So in regards to libertarian thought, I think it's high time that libertarians start realizing that without protection, without security, you're not going to be able to be free. You defend freedom. You don't just devote yourself to freedom by saying, I love being free so much. You have to be actively vigilant and active in defending it.
Yeah, and
yes,
absolutely. Freedom is liberty is the freedom to do what you ought to do, not whatever you want to do. It's there's people given the example, somebody you can do in places like Portland, you can do all the heroin you want, but that doesn't lead you to freedom. It makes you a slave to that drug. It's a sort of thing, and that's why I kind of back movements like the sort of Mises or Mises caucus in most of the Libertarian Party is pretty cringe, but like the Mises caucus, I'm sort of like, I back that. None of this, everything, we live in this fantasy world where everything's just free trade and like right in and out. Like, no, they actually published 2 papers, the case for closed borders libertarianism and the case for restricted immigration with free trade. And that was published in the Journal of Libertarian Science, which yeah, I'll comment on it at a later point, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, let's say you achieve your libertarian society and things go very well. I mean, according to libertarian theory, things will go very well. What do you do the second that the rest of the world figures out, but there's a lot of opportunity and prosperity in this little corner of the world, and you can go there and there's nobody will stop you. The borders are open. Suddenly your country is going to be flooded by people that don't have libertarian ideas. And very soon, everyone with a libertarian bone in their body is going to be in the minority, and then they're just going to vote in another welfare state.
Yep.
And that's kind of what happened to South Africa. I mean, I was reading just this week where South Africa is the first country in the world, I mean, having gained independence so recently in relative terms, not even 30 years. And it's the only country really built on totally woke principle in every sense. They abolished everything that brought discipline. They abolished, the innate structure of what was before. Of course, apartheid was abominable, but nonetheless, this country has been run on principles that do not fit whatsoever with the natural tendency of the people. So, going back to the context of Southern Africa, let us say South Africa losing, billions and billions, let's say, to this gold smuggling racket. Ernst, you said, fix your country first. So just picture Mozambique, this strange insurrection in the north, where one of the biggest investments since the International Space Station has just been scuttled by a band of a couple of hundred so-called ISIS guys who are running willy-nilly within our region, beheading, raping, torching, and destroying profitable potential. well, I don't believe the religious tone that they put to it. But there's just chaos and disorder everywhere. Mozambique is completely chaos. Same as Zimbabwe, same as South Africa. We close those borders down and get serious about what we're doing. The richness of these countries, agriculturally, minerally, in terms of tourism, those three countries combined, and add Botswana, this region should be the most prosperous place on earth, and there should not be a single person out of work unless by choice. Absolutely.
I mean, like you said, on the whole principles things, it's actually one of my favorite Ayn Rand quotes, is that like it was founded on these principles, where she basically said you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And that's kind of what we're seeing now. And I don't know what else to say. Actually, I do have one burning question, which is a bit of a side note, but Rory, I mean, like I'm here in northern Florida. Florida is now sort of colloquially known as the free state of Florida.
Yes, Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, he's a very beloved man here.
And especially in Odin's heart.
Yeah. And
have you got a poster of him?
I don't actually, but I saw this bumper sticker on somebody's car that said "Don't New York my Florida," and I want that so bad. I like that on a shirt so bad, but I'm sure he'll start selling merch for his campaign at some point, if not already. But as you know, I'm up here in Florida and in northern Florida, and I guess what I was trying to ask you is, I mean, especially also with context to what you've been saying so far, is, I mean, what would you, I mean, we're getting slowly but surely more listeners this side of the Atlantic, but what would you, I mean, I interact admittedly mostly with very sort of academic high-tech people, but I also, most of my friends, I mean, are just sort of regular folks, sitting in my local pub that I've told Ernst about, is, it's just a regular oak with his bucky and is sitting at the pub with me every Wednesday or Friday or whatever, and we talk to the bar lady. We know her on a first name basis, all that sort of stuff. That sort of old school stuff that at least I was told, my uncles told me, my older uncles, that's what they told me pubs used to be like. So that's why I go there. But what would you say? I mean, in my general interactions, both here and in my travels, I'm going to be up in Michigan this weekend. What do you want me to say, aside from sharing the show in this episode? What do you want me to say to these people that I run into?
Look, the suffering of the masses is incomprehensible to them. They cannot imagine a polar cold front hitting Cape Town and waking up at 4:30 in the morning, bitter cold, perhaps hungry, and having to travel, that gauntlet to work and back, not knowing whether you may die or be dismissed because the taxi wars are happening. I mean, it's just the Western mind has no concept of the depth of the struggle that people have, the poor of Africa. And they also have no concept of how that poverty and that suffering is brought on by their very own and by the governments that they elect. And so it's all fair and good in saying, well, if you keep voting for the ANC, you're complicit and therefore F off, The point of the matter is, when you're poor and hungry, politics is something that you don't even think of. I think less people vote than don't vote, I'm sure. So the context would be to try and get people to get some sort of concept of the depth of the suffering and the perversion that is being played out on the people of Southern Africa. by these awful revolutionaries, these Gucci revolutionaries of ours, and God, Ernst, I mean, you're so articulate, perhaps you could put that into better English. But once you get to know the suffering of another man, and you start to empathize with that, it's a good takeoff point, because the truth of the matter is there are solutions, and there are ways out of this, and there are ways we can change this part of the world to be so much better, and to ease the suffering and the hell and the murder and the rape and the so well documented hellhole that this part of the world has become. So yeah, I suppose it would be to try to bring some sort of consciousness to them in that sense.
Someone once summed it up very well. I can't remember who it was. I'll attribute it to Anonymous, but I can't attribute it to myself. They said, in South Africa is a country where the workable solutions are unacceptable and the acceptable solutions are unworkable. And what that quote means by acceptable solutions is the solutions that the government are proposing that they see as acceptable are not workable. And the solutions that will actually work are framed as unacceptable for a myriad of reasons, concocted by the ideologically possessed. You'll see this, it's always the same pattern. Whenever someone proposes a policy that will actually work in South Africa, whether that be gun ownership or whether that be protecting community's right to defend themselves or property rights. Whenever any of those types of solutions are proposed, it's always framed by the commentariat and by the lapdogs of the government as evil, or that it's going to hurt poor people, or that it's going to make the country a worse place. And it can't be farther from the truth. But then you have to ask the question, why are they so opposed to these types of solutions? Well, they're opposed to it because they know it will work and it will destroy their hold on power.
That's exactly right. So therefore, what I wanted to say, the topic which I said, comfortable corruption. It's just too easy, and the guys that have the political power that dictate the narrative are directly linked to the endless flow of illicit money, and as a result they become totally and completely disjointed. I recall a 9-hour meeting with the now president of Zimbabwe, Emerson Mnangagwa. I was placed with a sheikh from Oman and a billionaire oligarch, a former KGB Bulgarian operative who became a monster in the eastern gas fields and the pipelines that crisscross Europe. And I was strictly told that I could get them into gold, I could get them into agriculture, I could get them into tourism, platinum, chrome, tin mining, oil, iron ore, but not diamond. So eventually what happened, Mugabe was still the president. Eventually what happened was the sheikh was unhappy because he really loves diamonds. So what he did was he thought, well, you know what I'll do? I'll bribe Mugabe's wife. So he gives her $500,000 in dollars, right? And he tells her to please make an application for a diamond mine for herself. So unbeknownst to him, all applications for diamond mines, even the first ladies, landed first on today's president Mnangagwa's desk when he was the Minister of Defense. So I get called in by him, and I go there, and he says, "What the hell's going on?" So we had this marathon meeting, and he then said to me at the end of it, "Look, go home and write this all down and have it on my desk by 9 a.m. And with a guy like that, you don't miss your 9 a.m. appointment.
Right.
So needless to say, I was awake for 23 hours. But you know what he said to me at the conclusion of the meeting? And he said, ha, 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 Rory. And to think I thought I was presiding over a civilized country.
Wow.
And
wow. Yeah. Have no comment.
And I wasn't able to say, well, in fact, you're not, sir.
I just saw we have load shedding is back, boys, and I think I know the reason. I think it's all those TVs and tumble dryers and heaters that were expropriated last week.
Appropriated in the name of whatever the cause is.
Too funny.
Speaking
I'm
of,
going to save my leader Jacob Zuma by looting a television.
like what? Speaking of civility, guys, and I tweeted something to the effect of like, now that I've now that I'm in the South, I've heard the words please, thank you, sir, ma'am, you have a good day, and all that more times in the last 6 months than I did in the last 6 years, and it sort of really reminds me of my upbringing. And Rory, I'm sure this probably comes as no surprise to you, but yeah, okay, it comes as no surprise to you, but I was raised in sort of I guess you'll call it an old English style boarding school. I was taught how to wear a blazer and polish my shoes and clean up, and Sundays and clean the house. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and full wins are not, half wins are not. My older role models, my fathers and uncles and all that, taught me how to shave actually with a double-edged razor, and that's the sort of background I come from. And Ernst obviously also quite a stand-up guy. So I guess since we're one of the last sort of wind down topics is Rory, you seeing that sort of from us, what is your view on guys, sort of myself and Aaron's sort of generations, where like what is your message to us? What is your view on our takes in things and that sort of thing?
Well, wow, asking me that, well, it's an honor to even consider an answer, but I must say that right now I have my sons and my wife sitting in the office silently on their phones and listening into us, and the guys are in their early 20s. We're a family. We run a family business. I raised my son from nappies as a single dad, and I love nothing more than being a dad, being a father, being a mentor, and sharing what little skills and my mistakes with the people that I love and care for and cherish. And I think it's a hallmark of people that you automatically see if you are one, and automatically see if they're not. And the unruly chaos of the body and mind that pervades every sector of our society today is, I would say, that lack of fathership, that lack of mentorship, that lack of strength of character within the family, and that really, to me, is where we're at with 70% of our children being fatherless. We're in for hell, and God, I wish that could change. So, being able to share a small story and some time with you two great young men is a true privilege for me. And regardless of age, inspiration can come from anywhere. But I'm so often inspired by Ernst's conversations and your intellects, both of you, that it sparks me to think more clearly, to get my head sorted out, and to not waste my time. It's an inspiration. So thank you both really for befriending me and giving me that opportunity, and this opportunity today. I truly love it, and I think yeah, I have the utmost respect for good young people who are standing up for what is clearly right. I mean, we're nothing but realists, right? And yet the
I
world
call myself
is
an
just
optimistic
so
realist.
Yes. So yeah, guys, I think that's it. Keep doing what you're doing. Fight the good fight. We're with each other all the way, digitally, but I think also emotionally and in the heart and the head. So that mentorship, you can just count yourself lucky. I remember that post you put up of your dad not long ago, Ernst, and yeah, it's a blessing to have that. We are the few, and we should cherish it.
Well, thank you very much, Rory, for your big compliments, and thank you for your time as well. This was an absolutely enlightening conversation, and all the best.
Yeah, all the best, and we'll have to have you on again soon. If you, definitely.
Anytime, chaps. Anytime. I'm really just loving being able to share and being able to perhaps.
And Rory, you need to let me know if you're ever up north here in Pretoria or Joburg area, and we can have a chat over a beer if that's allowed.
That's allowed. I'll bring the beer.
100%. All right, just let me know. You can send me a message over Twitter.
You're so cool. Thank you, Ernst, and thank you, man. Thank you, everybody. You guys are just legends. All the best. And by the way, man, my mum is in Florida, like I told you. She's in Orlando.
Okay.
So she's probably going to want to come and bake you a cake and bring it to you.
Brilliant.
Tell her to vote for DeSantis.
Can you imagine
don't you worry.
A cake decorated like that? That would be amazing. That's yeah. All right. Cool, gents. Thank you so much, and I will see you when I see you. I'll be sure to keep spreading the word this side. Thank you so much, gents.
Cheers. God bless.
All right. All the best, you guys. Thanks for tonight. Thanks for the time.
Cool. Bye.